Well, we had a little no huddle today. You can catch that in our 11 o'clock hour of the podcast below this video. And one of the good questions, it was all caller driven, text toy driven today. And a question about the offensive line, Danny. And I seem to say this a lot, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And that is, you can't say, well, you know, your offensive line, the best of them have all the continuity in the world, like in 2005 with your Seahawks, and they've been together, and then all of a sudden say, hey, this offensive line for the Seahawks is going to be one of the 5 best in all of the league, and yet we don't even know who they are. So how important is continuity to this group come this fall?
I think it's less important in Seattle now than it was in 2005. And we really have a gold standard to compare it to, because that 2005 line, where you had Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson, the single best left side in the league at that point, Robbie Tobeck, who made the Pro Bowl, and then Chris Gray and Sean Locklear, who was a young up-and-coming player at that point, a third-round pick, and they relied on continuity. They relied on the fact that 4 of those guys have been playing side by side going back 3-4 years. This group is a little different. Some of that is by design with Tom Cable's system, which is made to be able to have parts that you replace. I think they have a pretty ideal scenario at left and right guard in which you're going to have 2 guys competing for spots. On the left side, it's Paul McQuiston, who's as close to an experienced veteran as this team has, and James Carpenter, who I think can be a really special, especially in the run game, blocker at that spot. Right guard, you have Moffitt and Sweezy, kind of the best man wins the job. I think that's pretty ideal for getting the best play out of it, but it doesn't rely on continuity like it used to.
Can this group, if they do come together, and I would contend that Tom would still want 5 guys to play every week, and no matter what system you run, you want that nonverbal, kind of like with a radio show. You want a little nonverbal communication, and you know what I'm doing, and I know what you're doing, and typically when offensive lines get to that point, they don't even have to say anything with their combo blocks and their scoops and their protections, and they all know exactly what they're doing. I still think that's best case. If they do gel, if 5 do play for 16 weeks, and let's put Moffitt and Carpenter at right guard and left guard, does this group have any chance, with 2 Pro Bowlers at center and left tackle, any chance to ever reach that gold standard?
Best in the league, you're going to have a long way to go. I mean, they do. San Francisco right now, in my mind, has the best line in the league, and you have a group of guys who are not only high draft picks, but have played together a long time.
The 2005 line?
Can they be as good as the 2005 line? It's too high a standard when you're talking about, there are people who believe Walter Jones in 2005 was the best player in the league. That he was, regardless of position, was the best player in the league that year. That as your kind of cornerstone makes it. Can they be one of the top 5 lines in the league this year? Yes, I think Seattle can. I don't know if they will. But before we start throwing out that heady, I mean, you got a long way to go. And at some point, that continuity, they will need to have that 2-3 years together.
I know this. They got the best O-line coach in the league. At least that's the guy that I would pay the biggest bang for the buck for.